Hey everybody, Ray Hayden here, and this video is going to be how to address a noisy fan. And this is the CPU fan. I'll explain that in a minute. But it started making some noise, and we can't really have that. Kind of takes away from the benefit of having a computer. Now I went through and I cleaned the fan up already one time, and it was like whisper quiet. And as a matter of fact, the GPU fan was made more noise than the CPU cooling fan. But let's go ahead and take this thing off, the cover off, and look at what's going on here. The two different types of screws I'm removing they're the exact same size to each other. The 4 are the same size as each other, and the 3 are the same size, and they're different sizes, so it's easy to not mix them up. So removing the case, on top we see the power unit here, and I just need to remove that. Now luckily, and a big part of why I chose all the parts that I chose for this was it doesn't look like it, but there's some room here. There's actually quite a bit of room. There's some cabling and everything that can move pretty easily out of the way, and there's enough room for me to slide the power unit back and then basically flip it over on top of itself. And we'll do that here now. Alright, so the cabling is just all attached at the bottom here, and the really important thing is you see this blue part down in here. This is the fan that's making a noise, and it took me a little bit of time to realize that. Is because I thought it had been this fan here, which is basically a fan for the box, which I do need to clean as well. This is the GPU, which I also need to clean up a little bit from dust and the like down there. But this fan is actually the noisiest one now, and it's pretty whisper quiet as well. It's the blue one that I need to deal with. And again, there's just 4 more screws to take off. There's a wire on here which I've pretty much just wrap around the fan itself, but the fan comes off. So as far as like cleaning the fan, just cleaning the fan, if you had a lot of dust on it, which I did, and I can take these screws out, so we don't have anything falling loose in the computer. So the fan itself comes right out, and it's still connected, it's still plugged in. But I'm going to disconnect it from the power source, which is right in the CPU here, or right on the motherboard. And it's got a connection. It only goes on one way. A lot of the videos talk about removing the dust and things that are on here, but in all honesty, the fan spinning around if there's like a pile of dust on your fan, the blades might be hitting that or something like that, or maybe that little sticker on the bottom came loose and it's getting hit by a blade or something like that, and that's going to make a lot of noise. Now this doesn't make any noise whatsoever when I spin it, and it really didn't make a whole lot of noise when I did that when it was dirty and it had been making noise on my computer. So what I did is I took it apart. There are, pardon me, there are 2 parts of this thing. There is this little, that little white dot is a plastic snap ring, and this other part here is a little O-ring that are in the inside of this. I'm going to pop this thing out here. I'm going to put that back in and show you something about it. On that little ring right there, that little post that's sticking up in there, I don't know how well you can see it or not, but on that post there is a groove, and I imagine that groove is for the O-ring and or the the little plastic snap thing. But I want to put this thing back in here, and I want to show you something about this that I kind of discovered by accident. I kind of figured that this might be the case, but if we hold this thing upside down, you figure it should fall out, right? If I drop it quickly onto my hand, it should also fall out. But there we go. So I can pop the thing out, but it doesn't just fall out. And the reason for that is I believe that piece of metal inside the cap is magnetized, and if I push down on this pin, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but the thing pops back up. Maybe you can see that thing moving a little bit, the fan, and it pops back up. We can get a better angle on it.Maybe you can see a little bit better. But the fan moves up and down there. It's popping back into place when really it should just fall right out. Yesterday I used some kind of a grease that didn't seem to work so well. And because it's after a few hours of work and the thing started making noise again, I didn't like that so much. So I'm going to try to put this little rubber ring back on. And that went right on. And I'm going to try to put this little snap ring on here. And I'm going to put the thing back into the computer and see how that works. And I had this little cell phone toolkit thing I bought for an unbelievable high amount of money years ago. And I don't have to do stuff on cell phones like I was back then. But let me see if I snap this thing back on and get that back in place. There we go. And that's how they fit in there. Now there is one more thing I can put on there, which I am going to put on there, and it covers up that whole area on the bottom there. It's a little rubber, a kind of a friction ring that just sits right in there, and then you have that piece of paper that covers the whole thing. Sticky paper or whatever. The stick is gone, so there's no more stickiness to it, but that little rubber ring should fit in there really well. Now when I had that thing out, I just want to show you, I got some Q-tips that I was using here, or some swabs, cotton swabs, and they got pretty dirty. So I hold these up here, and this is just some of them. You know, I mean, I did a whole bunch of cleaning out of this material here, and those little black edges are supposed to be white. So there's a bunch of dirt in there, or stuff, and I figured it might cause friction or things of that nature. And so on a moving part, you want to make sure it's a very light coating of oil and not a heavy coating of oil. Now, along those lines, this thing was placed, right now, the making of this video is 2022, and I had purchased this fan with the heatsink in 2017 and assembled that. So let me bring the computer back over here for a second, and I'll go ahead and plug this back in line with the camera. There's 4 little pins right here. There's a screw. There's a screw that's that bright spot in the bottom of the case there on the motherboard. And then there's, hopefully you can see that. That's right there, next to my finger. And that's the screw that holds the motherboard on into the case. And then just above that is, it's a 4 pins connector, and that's for the power for this fan right here.